Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could everybody stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Erica, could you do roll call, please? No board members and administrators present. Okay, board, you have an agenda in front of you. Any changes or any additions, anything need to be added? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's a 7-0. Oh, sorry, 6-0. Jessica's not here. Okay, and then next up, under 5, we have consent agenda. And the consent agenda is approval of meeting minutes, regular board meeting, October 17th, 2022. Special board meeting, October 26, 2022. Committee of the whole meeting, November 7th, 2022. The approval of accounts payable in the amount of $1,241,395.98 for the month of October 2022. An approval of the treasurer's report dated October 31st, 2022. With a balance of $18,645,787.15, and approval of new hires, transfers, resignations. Do you want to say anything or no?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So Dr. Laura Henley. So Dr. Laura Henley, who was hired a little over a year ago, she was our early childhood special education coordinator, working with our ECSC programs across the five districts. Did put in her resignation. She's headed off to private practice, so she'll be missed, and we're working on finding someone who can take her place.
Okay. And board, could I have a motion, please?
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll support.
Erica, roll call, please.
Shoup,
Yes.
Overgard,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Coven,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes. Motion carries 7-0.
6.
Man, thank you. Okay, next up, under 6 reports, community input, agenda items only. Do you know if anybody filled out the...
You want this?
Everybody's for the second one, correct?
Yes.
Nobody for the first? Okay. Okay, next up under reports is B, Superintendent's Excellence Award.
Yes, good evening, Board of Education members. It's been a while since we've been able to do this, so we're very excited. We have 3 students this evening who have been nominated by their teachers and support staff for the Superintendent's Excellence Award. So I am going to invite up Elliot Voigt. Elliot, where are you? Did he? Yeah, not here? Not able to make it. Oh, all right. Well, we will catch up with Elliot later. How about this one? Do we have Patricia Simpson here? Yay! Patricia, everybody with your family come with you? All right. Well, let's have them come up too. All right. Is that Mom? Yes. All right. Hold that a second. All right. It is my pleasure to share that Mrs. Kayleen O'Donnell, there she is over there, has nominated Patricia Simpson. Did you go by Patty? Yeah, Patty Simpson for the Superintendent's Excellence Award. Patty, who is currently in 12th grade, has been nominated for many of the following reasons. She has stepped up the last 2 years to make sure she is tackling her grades and achieving her goals. She stepped into a leadership position within the Business Management Administration class to help run the school store and make sure it runs smoothly. Her knowledge and tenacity to help her peers that are struggling with their schoolwork makes her the perfect recipient for this award. Patty is a manager in the school store and is a team captain for her varsity volleyball team. She also is involved in besides varsity volleyball, she's a senior class representative for student council and is a member of Interact. Lots of things going on in your life. Patty volunteers with the school club, with Interact, using her time outside of school to help build a better GA community. Miss O'Donnell would also like you to know that she is most deserving of the Superintendent's Excellence Award. She shies away from the typical high school drama and utilizes her extracurriculars to keep herself busy and involved. She has helped improve the school with her ideas and time commitments in Interact, volleyball, and student council. Her commitment to improving her grades is evident this school year, with all A's and B's and a climbing GPA of 3.25. The school would not be as productive, successful, and efficient without Patty as one of our students. Congratulations. Yay. Superintendent's Excellence Award, and Mom, good job there. I'm sure you're very proud of her. And this is a little token of our appreciation as well. And I'm going to put this down. And Mrs. O'Donnell, you come on up to Just curious, not everybody knows their plan after high school, but are you thinking about something?
After high school, it's scary being a senior, not knowing what you're going to do. But I finally chose to do pre-med and then going into physical therapy.
And there's lots of need for pre-med, so good job, and thank you so much for making us GA Ram proud. All right, oops. All right, and we have one more. So there's someone in the room, maybe, with the same name as me, Summers. Are you here? Come on up, Clayton. It's spelled a little different, though. Clayton, were you able to bring someone with you, or is it just you?
It's my home.
All right. Oh, I couldn't see her back there. Coming up, Ma. All right. So Clayton Summers. Mrs. McKinley, who is over there, we'll have her come up in a minute, has nominated Clayton Summers for the Superintendent's Excellence Award. Clayton, who is currently in 9th grade, has been nominated for these reasons. Clayton is a quiet but clear leader in first period English 1. Early to class, he greets all with a smile. Clayton is prepared and insightful, articulate, and patient. He most recently led his class during discussions regarding of mice and men. Clayton makes thoughtful and well-reasoned comments. He has a superb memory, I could use a little bit of that sometimes. I'm glad you do. And so Mrs. McKinley has joked that he often is my answer key when I grade class quizzes. He can be part of any group as he is kind and approachable. Bright as he is, Clayton is humble about his academic strengths. He is a strong, he's a strong reader and loves anything by Rick Riordan. Clayton's other teachers feel the same way. In Honors U.S. History, Mr. Pomeroy remarked that Clayton is a great student with questions on point. And I know he asks a lot of good questions, so you must be doing, I bet you and he can go back and forth. I could not agree more. Clayton is a bright and kind asset to the freshman class in our GA community. The other things that she would like you to know is that he is kind, thoughtful, and humorous, and that Clayton leads by example. It sounds like you love the outdoors and you spend time with your grandparents up north. Nice. And Miss McKinley just would also like you to know that she has spoken to all of his teachers and they all feel the same way about Clayton. Clayton, great work. Good job. Congratulations. That around.
Okay, next up under reports is C, high school celebration, student council presentation.
Can you link up to that? Is that everybody else?
Actually, it's probably more official. Okay. Karaoke. All right, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and giving us this opportunity to voice what's happening here at GA and all the great things that are happening and things that students also want to see to improve it even more. I'm Addison Godey. I'm president of the student council here at GA.
I am Lydia Kish. I'm Olivia Gates.
Grace Fleck.
Grace Carter. Lauren Gates.
Awesome. All right, what we like to start off with. Things to consider for this year and upcoming years.
Okay. So, first of all, we had the idea of starting like a cooking class and like making meal kits for like students that don't always have meals at home. Would just be like an opportunity to kind of show them simple things that they can make on their own. It would be an opportunity to help like the community, and we would hopefully make it a weekly thing. We would need help with the funding for it. Do you want to talk about the LINK program? Yes.
Okay. Many other schools have the LINK program. It's a program that allows seniors to really get involved with the younger classmen. So every year you kind of have a survey and you match and you're able to help them kind of guide throughout their freshman year, because it can be a really hard transition, especially if the 8th graders are going back down to the middle school next year. It's going to be a really hard transition, not hard, but like High school's a lot different than middle school. So it's nice to kind of have that older person to show you around and kind of guide you through your high school experience. So next year, we'd really like to implement that program into our school.
So this idea kind of came up in late October, so we weren't able to get to it this year, but we had the idea of combining like high school student council or other clubs with the primaries parade to kind of like help show clubs and stuff at the high school for when they get there. So we just wanted to talk about some of the things that were done best this year. Like the organization, so like programs and classes this year. I felt like as soon as we stepped into school on the first day, we had our schedules all set. They were very organized and everything was done very well. The homecoming parade was a huge hit this year. I mean, it is every year, but this year it felt like everything was done very well. The fundraisers, like the blood drive, have been going really well this year, and hopefully we're planning a lot more.
Also, a lot of this organization we'd like to thank Ms. Newton for, because last year it was very chaotic in the school, and this year as soon as we walked in, it just felt more organized, and like there was just, it was easier. Not easier, but like, it was better. And then the homecoming parade, I'd also like to thank our student council advisors, because it was probably the most organized it's ever been. Expectations are also better communicated to the students so they know how to act in school, which also really helps with the organization. Half days, big hit for students. They like this a lot better than the delayed starts that we've been having. So that was our student input on this. Prom theme! The junior class has been working really hard, fundraising a lot since their freshman year to really provide an awesome prom for us this year. We got this beautiful barn. Gorgeous. Look at the sunset in the background. Amazing. The prom theme this year will be rustic romance. So the junior class has just done an amazing job fundraising for this. Alrighty. So though there's been a lot of amazing things happening this school year, there's also some things that students would just like to be improved a little bit. So paper towel dispensers in all bathrooms. There's only two bathrooms, girl and boy, that have paper towel dispensers, and that can be very difficult, especially when the hand dryers that we have don't necessarily work that well, and they're very out of date. So more energy efficient hand dryers would also be a better alternative if paper towel wasn't an option. New water fountains with filtration that has water bottle fillers and overall better quality water. The middle school and the primary both have these types. We're the only school that does not have those. The cups in front of you are actually samples of water from our water fountains. This was probably the biggest thing that students really wanted a difference in. So the first cup is from the bathrooms by the cafeteria, and the second cup is from the English hallway across from Miss Smith's. As you can see, it's a little foggy. And yeah, I'm sure it is too. But a lot of the students don't really enjoy this water, and they don't feel that it's up to quality. And the water fountains aren't necessarily the cleanest. The custodians here are amazing, but the crust that's built up on them just isn't really desirable to drink out of. Support with funding for the upcoming senior trip would also be amazing too. The seniors have been fundraising for a very long time, since middle school even, but an extra support from the board would be very useful in planning an amazing senior trip for our seniors. New improved chairs and desks. At the middle school, they don't have the types of desks that we do, and we have different bodies here, more grown people. It doesn't accommodate for every body type at the school, and it's fairly uncomfortable for many people. Currently, many of our desks are broken, and they're not very accessible for everyone. So we just want to make sure that we have things that everyone can feel good when they're sitting in, and comfortable, and provides a better area to learn in.
So yeah, we wanted to thank you for giving us the time to present all of this to you. There has been so many amazing things this year. those were just a couple of things that students have kind of come together to agree that it would just be beneficial to change. Are there any questions?
You guys did an awesome job, and it was really nice to hear from you. My only question is, and if we did already, I apologize. Could we get a copy of your presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it looked great. Thank you. Yeah.
How did you go about collecting your information or input?
It was a lot of student-based input. Some of it was from our council as a whole, but a lot of it were being asked in different classrooms what they wanted to see, what they thought was improved better this year was also included in that. So I think it was just a mix of the council and people that came forward towards the council to see that change, to have their voices heard.
And I was just going to say thank you for coming. It was great to hear your positivity and the things that are going great, but also things that, you as students see. I don't go to a drinking fountain every day because I drink Mountain Dew. But, but things like that, that's great to be able to hear that. And thank you for it. And thanks for being here. Yep.
So not everybody up here might know who your advisors are, and this is the first year they've teamed up. So why doesn't one of you or two of you introduce who they are? And
Miss O'Donnell and Miss Speaker. They've done an amazing job so far this year, just helping us be more organized and come together more. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
And just thank you, and we'll look at everything that you presented tonight and take that into consideration, and we appreciate it. And for all the students, if you want to leave now, you're more than welcome to. But thanks for being here.
Thank you for your time. I'll have like a dancer sheet next time. I think that'll really bring it out. Maybe she'll Well, I was gonna do karaoke before. I'll record announcements. It'll be better next time. Don't you worry. I'll make a rap. If I present it in a rap, it's better. Yeah. Curtis?
Okay, next up under reports is E, audit report, Yo and Yo.
All right, thanks for having me today. It's going to be a tough act to follow the student council, but I will do my best. It's up to you. So everybody in front of you has a packet of information. There's a financial statement. There's a single audit report. There's a letter to the board and management from us. And then also there's this packet here with a picture on the front. The rest of this information is probably something like 100 pages, so we've summarized it down into about 15 for you. So that's what we're going to go over today. So on the first slide, the first thing that I like to do in these audit presentations is talk about responsibilities. So on the first slide, we just want to be clear that all the numbers and all the information that we're going to go over was provided by management. As your audit firm, we have to be independent, or else we would be auditing our own work, and that's not allowed. So on the second slide talks about our responsibilities as the auditor. And basically what our job is we have to follow the professional standards that are set forth before us, and we have to opine on your financial statements, your schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and on material compliance with your federal grant guidelines. So on slide 3, we have just a little bit of an overview of what an audit is. So basically, it all starts with understanding internal controls. So we come in probably in about June, and we start looking at all your different transaction cycles. So we look at disbursements, receipts, payroll, all that different stuff, and we pick certain transactions to walk through from start to finish. So what we do is we say, like, if you want to choose disbursements, for example, we would say, how do I get a check out the door? How do I get a bill paid? What are the different steps in the process? And we look for holes during the transactions of where something could go wrong. We look at the skills, knowledge, and experience of everybody in your business office and see, okay, do you have a new payroll person this year? Have they ever done payroll before? And, that helps us choose how much time to spend in each different area and how deep we want to go. So we look for proper segregation of duties, make sure that not one person has too many responsibilities. It's important that when, as auditors, we like to see anytime anything is done that somebody else is reviewing that, because if it's just one person doing it, you could very easily make a mistake and that could go unnoticed. So once we do that, we also look at your policies and procedures, make sure your procedures are designed appropriately and make sure that they're functioning as designed. Once that's all done, we have our risk assessment. We come up with high risk areas, low risk areas, and medium risk areas, and then we do different procedures. So we can do a combination of substantive procedures and analytical procedures. Substantive are like looking at receipts and confirmations and statements, etc. Analytical procedures would be comparisons. So we know that if the school district down the road, if their utility costs went up 20% this year, your utility costs should probably be going up 20% too. We are required to do the 6 bullet point pension and OPEB plan testing. Basically, the MIPSERS plan is audited at the state level, so the state auditor general is expecting us as the audit firms to audit the inputs that get submitted into that plan at the district level. I always have to mention unpredictability. Every year we think of something that the business office wouldn't expect us to do, and we kind of spring that on them during field work and don't give them a ton of time to prepare for it, because you don't want to become too predictable as an auditor and have them know 99% of what we're going to ask for before we ever get there. We do have to do your audit in accordance with government auditing standards because you're a governmental unit, so there's extra scrutiny placed on all the dollars that go out the door. We have to look for fraud, waste, abuse, etc. because of all the taxpayer-funded dollars that you get. And then toward the end of the audit, we have some other compliance testing that we have to do that like the local ISD wants us to do, and then MDE. And then we help prepare your financial statements and do a number of submissions for you to federal, state, and local governments. And we do audit your bonds as well. Just wanted to note, anytime a district passes a big bond, that's subject to kind of its own little separate audit, and we do that every year of the bond until it's complete, and then that gets submitted to the Department of Treasury. So on the next slide, we start talking about the results on slide 4. So you did receive a clean opinion, which says that all the numbers that we're going to go over are accurate. On the next slide, so before, when I mentioned that internal control evaluation that we have to do, it's important to note that you get an opinion on all your numbers, you get an opinion on compliance with your material grant regulations, but you don't get an opinion on internal controls because that's not what an audit is designed to do. But once we go through that process, if we identify anything that we feel like is deficient, of course we're required to report that. We did not find any deficiencies this year. No material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies noted. All the controls looked really good. The next bullet point on the single audit, so that's something completely different from your financial statement audit. If you expend more than $750,000 of federal funds during the year, you need a single audit, and it focuses on compliance with those federal grant guidelines. So you are a low-risk auditee because you've had several years in a row of demonstrating clean audits and no issues, so that allows us to kind of do a little bit less, I guess. It also looks good to your grantors and to the state to have that noted in here that you're a low-risk auditee. So for the current year, The major program that we had to select, which means the grant that we focused most of our attention on, was the Education Stabilization Funds. So that's all those, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, GEAR type grants. You received unmodified opinion, which means clean. We had no material weaknesses or non-compliance to report that, so that was completely clean as well. On the next slide is some more communications that we have to tell you. We had no disagreements with management. We had no uncorrected misstatements that were more than a trivial amount. No material audit adjustments is probably the big one. So basically everything that was handed to us is exactly what you're seeing. No material errors that we found, and no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Everything was, Philip is really, really great to work with. Wendy's great to work with. It allows us to do our job very efficiently. All our requests are fulfilled pretty much immediately. Everybody knows the answers to all the questions. No documentation was missing, nothing like that. So really couldn't have went any better. So we'll start going over some numbers items on page 7. So we've got just a summary of all your funds right here. So in the first column there is your general fund, food service fund, etc. We kind of lumped all the activity of the capital project fund into one column, as well as your debt service funds. So for the current year, your general fund had a change in fund balance of a negative $260,000. So there was a little bit of a loss there. Ended the year at about $2.1 million in your general fund. I won't say too much about the other funds, except for the capital project funds. You're going to see a change in fund balance of a positive $15.9 million. Basically, that's because you had the new bonds that were passed this year of about $15.7 million. So you do have a nice fund balance in there of about $16 million, which will get spent down over the next few years as those bond projects are completed. On the next slide, we have a budget to actual comparison for you. So the original budget in the first column, that's what would have been approved in June of 21. Your final budget, which was just approved this last June, and then where you actually came in at. So you can see there's a little bit of fluctuation. A lot of times early on when you're passing that budget, you don't have final student counts. So most districts are doing an amendment in November or so. So originally was budgeted for about a wash. Final budget came in at a loss of $400,000, but you actually came in with a loss of about $260,000. So it was about $140,000 off. So it's pretty accurate. And then on the next slide, next several slides, we have some graphs for you. So on slide 9, this just shows where your general fund revenue came from for the year. Usually from year to year, this graph is looking almost identical, but this year, federal is up probably about as high as it's ever been. So that came out to $1.5 million for the year, about 10% of your funding. That might go up even more next year with the renewal of some of those ESSER grants. So that's not going away within the next couple of years, I guess. On the next slide, we have a pie chart showing expenditures by function, or by object, I guess I should say. So the thing to note here is that your blue and orange slices of the pie make up 75% of all expenditures, and that's your salaries and benefits. So everything else was, more or less minimal. Purchase service by far was the next largest at 16%, and then everything else combined for only 9%. On the next slide, I like to show this at board presentations, just kind of shows what your student count is doing over time. So this goes from 2013 all the way to 2022. And do just want to note, this is the blended count. So if you have that October student count in your head and it's different, that's why it's a blend of your fall and spring counts. So this year you're down about 52 students and ended the year at 950. On the next slide is another trend graph. This just shows your general fund balance and what that's been doing over time. So you can see overall the past 5 years or so has been pretty positive, and ended the year at about $2.1 million. Slide number 13, this just shows a benchmark that a lot of our boards like to see. If you take your fund balance and divide it by the operating expenditures of a general fund, you come out with a percentage. So you ended the current year at about 14%, which was down from 17.5% last year. I did remember to look up before I left today what the averages were. So in Michigan, there's something like 830 school districts, and they're divided out into like sizes. So you're really hovering between two different classes. So Class L is 1,000 to 1,500 students. Class M is 500 to 1,000. So you're really right on the border there. But for 2021, the data hasn't been published for 2022 yet. But the average for Class L for 21 was 24.6%, and then for Class M it was 19.9%. Just one thing to mention about that, it's not necessarily comparing apples to apples. A big variable here is all the ESSER money that came through. Some districts chose to not spend hardly any of it last year or the year before, and they're kind of, have a big increase this year, and vice versa. So these few years here, it's, you can't really, it's not 100% comparable, I would say.
What was M again?
Class M was 500 to 999 kids.
What was the percent?
19.9. And then on the next slide, we have a trend graph showing the MIPSERS rate, or the retirement rate. So this goes back to 2009 when the rate was 16.5%. For the current year, the rate was up to 43%. Next year, your unsubsidized rate is going to be identical. It's not going up at all, but the total rate is going to be almost 45%. So just one thing to point out about this graph that's a little confusing. So the blue line is the total rate that you have to pay. The green line represents the unsubsidized rate. So you'll notice the blue line doesn't exist before 2014. That's because that's the first year that you started getting that 147C payment for state aid every month. So basically the state gives you some money and you have to turn around and send it right back to the retirement system every month. So the difference between the blue line and the green line is that amount that comes through state aid. And then on the next slide, I just want to briefly touch on some significant accounting pronouncements. You probably hear about this a lot. If you went to MASB or attended any of those kind of sessions, just so you kind of give you some background. For the current year, we did have one significant standard that had to be adopted for leases. Basically, there in the past there was two different ways that you could record leases on your books. And that's gone away. There's just one method now. So it is a big change for certain districts. Basically, if your leased items met certain criteria before, they could be disclosed only and not hit your balance sheet. But going forward, they all have to go on your balance sheet. So that was one change for this year. For next year, there is another standard that's probably even more significant than that. It's very similar in concept, except for next year, you have to consider all your subscription-based IT arrangements. So that's going to be anytime you're paying a company to use their IT system of some kind. So there's probably going to be a lot more things to consider because a lot of districts, they own their buses, they own their copiers, that type of thing. So they're not leasing them, but I think everybody leases some sort of system of some kind. So the accounting is basically the same. If you have any of those items, it's going to show up as an asset on your balance sheet, and then there will likely be an offsetting liability of about the same amount. So your effect to the bottom line is going to be next to zero, but your balance sheet will be grossed up for those items, and that's effective for next year. And that was all we had. So I'd like to say thank you very much to the board, thank you to Wendy, and thank you very much to Philip and his staff that are just really awesome to work with. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I'm appreciative that it's become a broken record, and it just keeps playing the same song. So, and that it's a positive one. So, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming and presenting to us. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, and next up under reports is senior trip.
That is me on behalf of Jess. Reading what she gave me.
See this?
She gave me notes. I haven't looked at that, so I don't know what that is.
This is what she submitted to the board.
Okay.
This might be helpful. Would have been helpful other than like
Yeah. So basically, senior class is doing 3 different fundraisers. They've done the wreaths, the meat sticks, and then they're doing another one come January. They're going to start planning on what they do want to do. Only 14 kids have actually participated in this fundraiser, so they need to find something that's going to really give them some bang for their buck in participation, because it's going to be about $250 to $300. We're going to go to Cedar Point and then Kalahari, I believe it is, the water park. And it's going to be May 11th through the 13th. So staying Thursday night and Friday night. What else? We're looking to see about how many kiddos are going right now, because that's going to be the difference between how many charters we have to do, which will be a bigger penny in that. So we're really trying to hone in on that number so that we know. We're looking at about 10 to 1 chaperone-wise. And a nice balance of males and females so that we can monitor all the overnight stuff. We're doing emergency permission slips. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. So yeah, once we get the final number, we'll have them commit so we can get those forms in, so that then we can lock in the numbers and the bookings and everything. Any questions that I might be able to answer for you? Just brief me on Thursday, so.
I guess my only question, which I think you said don't really know the numbers yet, but how many kids, expect to participate?
86 just kids, and so I'm guessing when I went around and helped Jess fill out just the yes or no's and then t-shirt sizes, I think we had like 15 absolute no's, and then there were a handful of maybes, and I think that all depends on how much it is, when it is, where we're going, all that fun stuff. We'll pump it up, and once we get this next fundraiser, we'll just get the momentum going. But I would guesstimate 60 kids.
This is the other class, right, that was hit by the pandemic. And so that fundraising kind of came to a standstill for a while. Do they have to put a deposit down?
We are going to be asking for some. We're going to actually, right before, in the beginning of December, we're going to send a notification out about this is how much it is. We need your $50, I believe is what Jess said. And then that starts the kind of part of seeing where we go from there. Oh, we got to get the final number, because that's the buses that are going to be. So. Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm stealing this one.
Yeah.
Okay, next up under reports is F Fund update.
So, I'll talk about a couple of updates, and then we can talk about groundbreaking. So you have in front of you a couple of half sheets, if you would like to get those out to folks. And we'll be getting that out on the website. We'll publish as much as possible. It's a QR code. You put your phone over it, and it will take them exactly where they need to go if they would like to purchase a brick. And I believe Nicole has also worked on a flyer. And the flyer is helpful because if someone wants to pay by check, that helps out too, because I know some of our folks very much like to pay by check yet. But so very exciting. And then the other, I just want to comment about the whole high school furniture thing. We had 2 meetings today. One was about turf, but the other was about our multi-purpose facility, the addition that we'll be putting on, and that one of the conversations is if we come under, whether it's through the funds set aside for in case anything goes wrong, my contingency funds, or if it comes in under bid, what else might we do? And Frank had suggested it last week, and Lindsay mentioned it today. Now the students have mentioned the fact that it has been a while since we've had some new high school furniture, and not that it would be enough to do the whole thing, but hopefully there would be some funds left over for us to target a couple of either classrooms, etc. And so we'll keep our fingers crossed about that, but that is on the list. The other thing that is on the list, if the funds provide appear, right, is that I think I mentioned to you that the permit had been given to us so that we don't have to build more bathrooms, but we can have more bleachers. And so Triangle came today with what that would look like. It would be basically adding a piece on left and piece right, so it still stays symmetrical, and it would be about $75,000, which I think is what we mentioned last time, and it would put the home side at a little over $1,000. I think that's where we all felt better if we could be there. So today was a meeting to kind of review what we've done with the multipurpose addition. We talked about some equipment that we still need to look into. Batting cages, wrestling mats, some of those kinds of things. Whether we need to look at but more acoustics for the multipurpose that's going to come with some in the base bid. And the suggestion is kind of wait and see, have some fund money set aside, but kind of wait and see how it projects. So a couple of those kinds of things. And then we'll be meeting again in 2 weeks, and that will be looking at materials. We're going to try to visit some floors that have the rubber base. There's different levels, different types, and so our goal is to try and visit some of those before we have our meeting on December 7th. So this should be the next one should be the last one for design development, and then we'll be good to go with getting a clear cost to the multipurpose addition. And then we can begin construction documents if we come in under bid. So I'm hoping, not the bid part, but their estimate, because they have been getting pretty good at those estimates at this point. So yes. So any questions about the multipurpose? Okay. And then of course the ceremony today I thought was amazing. Maybe some of you would like to comment, but I appreciate it, Ben. You did a nice job. Lindsay did a great rah-rah for us too. And I just so appreciated the good turnout. I did not get a chance to get hot cocoa. But we appreciate the kids being there, and I'll give it back to you.
No, I just want to say, because we haven't had a board meeting since, so November 7th, the primary school, November 7th, when we had groundbreaking at the primary school, today groundbreaking here. For those of us, or for those that could be there, I mean, it is just so exciting. The community supporting and passing the bond, seeing some of these things happen that we've needed for a very long time. So, it's just a very exciting time for GA. Okay. Next up is business items for discussion. A monthly budget discussion. Philip?
Right. We're 4 months into the fiscal year, and as you can see from the comparison to this at this point last year, pretty much on the same trajectory in terms of revenue coming in, expenditures going out. We are in the process of revising the budget, so the next 3 weeks I'll be meeting with Wendy and administrators to put together the revision. We're meeting with the Finance Committee, I believe, kind of middle of December, and then we will come to the board meeting in January with a revised budget. Happy to answer questions if you have any.
I didn't have
Yeah, I think, are you leaving now, Philip?
planning on leaving.
Okay.
Unless there's
So I
questions.
just want to say thank you for, the audit every year, you and Wendy. I mean, the audit goes very well, which is huge and very important. So thanks to both of you because it makes everybody's life much easier.
Very welcome.
Okay, next up under business items for discussion is B, merit pay policy.
So I just provided you with the administrative guidelines for performance-based compensation for teachers. The goal when we put the guideline there was that the board would review the amount and make some decisions. Doesn't have to be today, but just a discussion as to whether or not currently it is at $400 for a teacher who's effective or highly effective. That would be paid after evaluations are turned in June, so it's usually the last pay for teachers. And so what we originally discussed was that on occasion we'd take a look at that. Do we want to make it higher? But again, that decision, we could make that next month or at a later date and time. So I wanted to make sure that we brought that to the table tonight. And in case there's any questions, I know not everybody has seen the guideline in the past. It is a result of legislation that was passed that required a teacher or administrator's evaluation to be, had to also be based on data. Right, and so there was a big package of legislation that came through, including the opportunity to offer performance-based pay, and that is where GA started, was at that $400 level. So, just a discussion tonight. You can ask questions or, okay, anything?
We're working on adjusting how we're doing our reviews or evaluations too.
We have a new evaluation system, Diana. Yep.
So that will
Yep.
go along with this.
Yes. Yep. I think we shared a little bit from the principals at a recent meeting about how that's going. And I think they could continue to tell you that they're learning lots, having great conversations with staff. It's a learning process, though. Everybody's learning together. But I know that there is talk at the state, now that there's a trifecta, as they call it, where both houses as well as the governor's office now, the majority of Democrats, although it's a very slim majority. I know that, I don't know, what I've heard is that the idea of teacher evaluation being based on data, that legislation that came into effect will, I'm sure, be discussed again. Whether it goes anywhere, I don't know, but that would probably be one of the ones that the governor or someone in the House or Senate will discuss. So, but in the meantime, this is where we are.
Question, so I know, when do we make the actual decisions?
So we can make it in December, right? You can do that. One of the recommendations I might have is that as we make the budget amendment, perhaps we do some consideration and then look at that. And you could also make it at the January or it really is the board's decision. There is no, deadline, so to speak. Mm-hmm.
So next up, business items for discussion is C, second read of Neola policy, volume 37, number 1. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions on it? I mean, I know we went through it at our policy meeting, then we went over it at the COW. But yeah, I think everybody's had it for a little while to look over. Okay, so next up, 8 is communications, public participation. Second time for the night that we have public participation. Remember, you have 3 minutes. When you come up, state your name, your relationship to the district. And are there any more signed up back there? No. Okay. So I'll just go off the list that I have here. And I think we are going to try and do the timer. So first up is Shayna.
You need to hit the button.
You have to hold it for a second.
Thank you. Good.
Can you see the green button?
Shane, your time has started.
No.
I'm just
Don't sign my time yet. I have a precursor.
Technical difficulties.
Hello. I speak really loudly. I don't know that I need this, but
we all want to do this.
okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good evening. Don't start my time yet, because I want to say that I apologize in advance. I'm going to read this because I have so much to say, and I want to make sure I get it all in. Okay. Ready? Go. Good evening to all. My name is Shayna Weiss, and I'm the principal of Galesburg-Augusta Middle School. I've known many of you for a long, long time. Having served this district for more than 32 years, and having lived in this community all my life, I have worked hard to establish a reputation that is premised on kindness and integrity. To lay the groundwork for my statement to the board, I could read the report of harassment submitted by Caitlin Reed, the district's former school social worker, and by the GAEA. However, the 3-page document, which outlines an array of unsubstantiated charges against me and other administrators, would take up most of my allotted 3 minutes. Because the GAEA president, Eric Curtis, took the liberty of speaking out at a school board meeting regarding some of these charges, I'm grateful now to have the opportunity to set the record straight. In this public forum, Mr. Curtis named me in particular as being fraudulent in special education reporting. He also accused me of referring to Ms. Reed as a liar. After a thorough investigation and demonstrated by a preponderance of evidence, both of these assertions were found to be unsubstantiated and false. Unfortunately, as Mrs. Washburn often tells students who speak unkindly to others, the toothpaste is already out of the tube. Might the board, my colleagues, staff, and community at large see me in a different light and think to themselves, is there a sliver of truth? Mr. Curtis demonstrated a shameless disregard for my reputation by making public accusations without doing his homework. Don't speak while I'm speaking. This has left me disheartened, disappointed, and quite frankly, angry. I assert that the GAEA president harbors animosity and ill will toward the superintendent and has allowed this to impair his judgment. One of the most interesting notes from the harassment investigation was, and I quote, Ms. Reed did not recall information and or specifics about 7 of the 23 listed allegations. When asked about some of the details in these allegations, Ms. Reed replied that the complaint was put together by the union president and the executive board, end quote. Creative writing should never be mistaken for fact. Eager as the GAEA president is to speak to what is right and fair, I don't recall his coming forward with a public apology to set right his false accusations, nor even a simple retraction of such. The blatant disrespect shown by Mr. Curtis on behalf of the GAEA is unwarranted and demoralizing. I am certainly not perfect, nor am I the gold standard of school administrators. However, I work hard every day to serve my staff, students, and community, and I'm going to do it for a long time. Thank you.
Next up. And sorry, I may say your last name wrong. Jennifer Cheeky.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Chicky, and I've been the special education supervisor in GA for the past 5 years. Sorry, Shayna. Tonight I'm here to address statements made against my colleagues in harassment. Sorry. It's upset me to see my colleagues that upset. Filed by Caitlin Reed. This document I'm referring to listed myself as a witness. However, the person who created this document never reached out to me for my input on the situations listed. I would like to address a few of the situations listed on the report of harassment document from January 28th, 2022. The first involved Shayna Weiss, Jamie Cornick, and Lori Washburn. There was a concern brought forward by Caitlin Reed about how discipline was being tracked at the middle school. It was brought to my attention, and I spoke with Shayna about the concern. After clarification from Shayna, I discovered that they were reporting the correct information. I reviewed this with Caitlin Reed at an in-person meeting. It is important to note that according to the attorney's report, the situation that was listed was unfounded. The next situation I wanted to address is a meeting with Sean Sportel, Janine Zimmerman, Lindsay Smeltzer, and myself. It was stated in the document that the administrators cornered Caitlin Reed. This meeting was a student support plan meeting. Caitlin was always free to leave the room at any time. She disagreed with some of the team members, and when she was asked her reason for her disagreement, she became defensive. We asked other staff to leave the room, and Sean, Janine, and myself attempted to coach Caitlin on her communication techniques. Again, it is important to note that according to the attorney's report, this specific allegation was unfounded. As a special education supervisor, it was my job to work with Caitlin Reed to try to provide coaching and mentorship. Her success meant success for our students with special needs and for the building as a whole and the district as a whole. To you, the Board of Education, I want to assure you that at no time did I find any ill intent that any of our staff targeted Caitlin Reed. Sorry. Thank you.
Lindsay Smeltzer.
My name is Lindsay Smeltzer, and I'm the coordinator of behavior intervention for Galesburg-Augusta Community Schools. I've worked for the district for 2 years. Being new to the district, I'm working on establishing my roots and reputation within the community. When I was told about the report of harassment delivered by Mr. Curtis to the board this past year, I was highly discouraged to hear that I was included. Not only did I have no idea that I was being accused of something that happened months prior, I had no opportunity to explain my side of the situation before it was made public. I worked diligently and professionally with the previous employee, just like I worked diligently and professionally substituting for the dean of students in the high school this past spring, in which Mr. Curtis complimented me on. Quite the contradiction. My reputation and relationships with co-workers, families, and the community is very important to me. This experience shows that the importance of following processes and procedures and making things right when a mistake is made. This situation has created anxiety within the workplace for me that pops up when I meet new people. I wonder if they know about the false accusations. Do they know the accusations were false? Will my children who go to this school, to schools in this district, be treated differently because of the accusations made against me? In summary, the resolution letter from the incident states, witness and party testimony and documentary evidence directly contradicted many allegations and demonstrated that many of the allegations were either taken out of context, based on hearsay, or otherwise not accurate. Thank you.
Jamie Cornick.
Good evening. I'm Jamie Cornick, student sports specialist at the middle school, as well as the district's STEAM education coordinator. And I just want to be on record that Shana is, in fact, the gold standard for administration. I'm going to make that clear. The prior reading of baseless and completely false allegations of workplace harassment without proper inquiry by Galesburg-Augusta Association President Eric Curtis in front of the Galesburg-Augusta Board of Education was both reckless and callously malicious. The reading of the statement that he prepared was nothing short of slanderous defamation and the collateral character assassination of multiple Galesburg-Augusta employees with decades of impeccable integrity and service to both this school district and the community that it represents. If capable of shame and remorse, I truly hope that he feels both. And I hope that the Galesburg-Augusta Education Association, an organization of which I was a dues-paying member for all of my 16 years as a Galesburg-Augusta classroom teacher, will use this as an opportunity for learning, growth, and reflection. I hope that the Galesburg-Augusta Education Association also uses this experience as motivation to create safeguards and put procedures in place in order to ensure that the needless wanton harm that has been done to the reputations of numerous district employees is never duplicated. Thank you.
I'm just going to have to be loud enough to die. Lori Washburn.
My name is Lori Washburn. I work at the middle school as a student support and family liaison. I've been with GA for 8 years. For the past 20 years, I have welcomed students into my home as a private piano teacher. I find the unproven accusations and flat-out lies made by Caitlin Reed and Eric Curtis insulting on so many levels. GA is at a precipice. We can continue to grow and be known outside of our district for doing cutting-edge work, or we can be swallowed up in slander by those who, rather than do great things, choose to tear down others. It's easy to throw stones and create drama where there is none, or to cover up one's own inadequacies by spreading lies about others. Growth happens when we're willing to look beyond words spewed in spite and compare those accusations made against the accused person's character. What do I know of this person? They have been with our district for 10, 20, even 30 years. 30 years pouring into the lives of our children. Do the accusations being made fall in line with the reputation they have built over the years? Small minds hide behind slander. It's their only way to even the playing field in their minds. The sad thing is, we can all win. Do great things or tear down. It's our choice.
Okay. Next up, 9 business items for decision. So next up is decision for second reading and adoption of Neola policy updates, volume 37, number 1. Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of Neola policy updates, volume 37, number 1.
I'll support.
Roll call vote, please.
Evans?
Yes.
Shoup? Yes. Overgard?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Simmons? Yes. Walker?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, next up, business items for decision, B, senior trip. Could I have a motion, please?
I'd move to approve the 2023 senior class trip as presented.
I'll support.
Any discussion? Erica, roll call, please.
Reed?
Yes.
Overgard?
Yes.
Coven?
Yes.
Shoup? Yes. Simmons? Yes. Walker?
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. And next up is 10, closed session for attorney-client privilege. Yeah, what time is it? 7:39?
Yes.
Want to do 7:45?
Please.
Oh, sorry. Could I have a motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege?
I move to go to closed session at 7:45 for time.
I'll support it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes 6-0. Yeah, so 7:45.